device is configured: a host PC, a firewall, a web server, and a database server. Each device is assigned specific network settings, including subnet masks, interfaces, gateways, and network prefix, ensuring proper communication and security across the CentOS 7 virtual machine architecture. Hello everyone and welcome. In this tutorial, we will walk through setting up a basic web server using Apache and securing it with firewall on a CentOS Linux system. First, we run the command -y install httpd to install the Apache HTTP server. The -y file automatically accepts any prompt. You'll see the system download and install the necessary file. And then it's downloaded the Apache package, and this process can take a few moments depending on your internet connection. Next, we initiate the Apache service with the command systemctl start httpd. This starts the Apache web server, as you can see. And then after installation, the enable Apache to start on board with the command systemctl enable httpd. Now let's check its status using systemctl status httpd. The output confirms that the Apache is now running. Next, now we will configure our network interface to use a static IP address. We will open the configuration file with the command vim. This one is for mpost 3. And then in this file, we change the boot proto to static to set a static IP address. And then we will enter our specific IP address, subnet mask, broadcast address, and the gateway from the host PC. Make sure to have all this added in this file. And also make sure to replace all this value with your actual network settings, as you can see. And then after making the changes, we save and exit vim using wq. Next, we will do the same for mpost 8. We're gonna change the boot proto to static like previous, and then you have to add all this. It's also same as the previous. Now we have network, broadcast, gateway. Make sure to insert all the IPs. But for this one, we're going to be using mpost 3 IP as the default gateway. Then we're going to change on boot from no to yes. And then we're going to save with wq. Now we use systemctl restart network. This command restart the networking service applying our new static IP configuration. And then we use ifconfig command, which shows detailed info about all the network interfaces. Check the static IP address and the details for mpost 3 and mpost 8 are correct. And then clear. And then use the systemctl mask IP tables, IP6 tables, and EP tables. This one is services is to prevent conflict with firewall. And then now let's check the active zone with firewall with this command. This confirms which zones are currently active and helps us verify that our configurations are correct. And then next, we're gonna use the same one as for the mpost 8, and then this one we're gonna change to the zone to DMZ. And then next we will allow HTTP and HTTPS services in the DMZ zone using this command. This to ensure that web traffic is permitted for this zone. And then now we will also allow HTTP and HTTPS services in the public zone with the command. And then after making the changes, we will reload. This will apply them using the command. Now let's set the active zone again using this command. This command shows which interfaces are assigned to which zone. And then we attempt to check the active services in the DMZ zone using this command. However, this command returns an error indicating that the argument is unrecognized. As you can see, instead we can use the command firewall cmd list services zone DMZ instead to list the services allowed in the DMZ zone. Similarly, we can check the services for the public zone using this command. And after making these changes, we can reload the firewall to apply this command, which is firewall cmd reload. Alright, next we're gonna open the IP forwarding configuration file using this command, which is vim command. This allows us to modify the setting related to IP forwarding on the system. And then next we edit the IP forward config file to enable IP forwarding by adding this line. This setting allows the Linux kernel to forward packets between network interfaces. And then we're going to save and create by using wq. And then to apply the changes immediately, I execute the command, which is this command. This command sets the IP forwarding parameter in the running kernel. The output confirms that this command is now set to while, indicating that IP forwarding has been successfully enabled. Now, let's create a simple test page for our web server. We will use vim again to edit the default Apache index file. This is the command we're going to use. Here, we're going to add some basic HTML to create a page that says testing firewall. As you can see, we're going to change this one to testing firewall. And then, like usual, we're going to save and exit using wq. And then now let's open the web browser and access our web serving using the IP address we configured earlier. In this case, we're going to use this IP. It shows success, the web page displays correctly. It's confirmed that the Apache is working properly and accessible through the firewall.
Assalamualaikum. Here I will be explaining about the virtual machine for the web server. First of all, we will install the HTTPD inside the web server, but for this part, we already installed it. Next, We will start the HTTPD and then we will enable it. For confirmation, we will check the status of the HTTPD to check if it is active. And then we will go into the VIM for the ENPOS3. For the boot proto, from the HCP, we will change it to static. And then we will add the IP address, the subnet, the network, broadcast, and also gateway. The IP address for each virtual machine are unique to itself. Save the changes and quit. For the next part, we will restart the network for web server, and then we will check the IP address for ENPOS3 for confirmation. Next, we will go into the firewall virtual machine. First of all, we will enter the firewall config to enter into its configuration. Inside the port forwarding, we will add port 80 for the web server IP address. And now we will reload the firewall. For the next part, we go back into the web server virtual machine and then we go into the firewall configuration. Change the configuration into permanent, and then we search for HTTP to enable it permanently. Next, we will restart the firewall. We go into the no index and then we enter the VIM for index.html. In this line, we will change the text here. and we will see the result right after this. Save the changes and quit. We'll restart the network. And then we go into our web browser. We enter the IP address for the web browser, and we will see the changes that we made inside the index.html.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Aiman Shafiq bin Muhammad Zamri. So today for my part, we will be configuring the database and we will be making sure the web server can communicate with the database to send traffic for use with mysql. So firstly, we want to install httpd. So yum-y install httpd. So once it's completed install, we want to start it. Then we want to enable it. And then of course we want to check the status, if it's running or not. Okay, as we can see, it is currently running. And then we will install MariaDB, MariaDB server, PHP, and PHP MySQL. Install PHP. So after we finish the install, we'll configure the IP for the database. So we'll go into bin /etc /sysconfig /network-scripts /ifcfg -enp0s3. Then here we'll want to edit the boot proto, change it to static. Then we'll add the IP, all the criteria for the IP configuration. So network, broadcast, subnet. Then the gateway. And the gateway is what we're using, the IP address of enp0s3 in the firewall, so .1.30. So other than that, can we quit? Save and quit. So with that, first we'll look at the ifconfig to see this is before we restart the network. So and then restart the network. Okay, and then we'll check ifconfig again. So yes, right there we have the IP that we've configured. Okay, so now we'll start up MariaDB. Systemctl enable, start MariaDB. Enable it. Then we can check its status. Okay, it is running. So we enter MariaDB by using this command mysql-u root-p. So enter the password, then we can start creating our database. So we use create database nos project semicolon. So we have created a database, and then we use the created project name nos project. Then we create create the table. Okay, so with that we have created our table for use in our web application. So we can check by typing describe. So that is the criteria for our database. So and then we want to give permission to our web server to communicate the database. So write out so with this command, this part here is what the username will be. The username will be for use in our PHP program that will send data to the MySQL from the web server. So and after this, identified by is the password for the user we created, the web server user. We use the IP for the web server. Okay, then we'll flush privileges. Okay, and then we exit, and then we'll restart MariaDB. Okay, so now we want to add a port. We'll just go to firewall config. So we'll set it to permanent, then we add ports. Add port 3306. Okay, we exit, then we reload firewall. Okay, success. Then we check. So right here we've successfully added the port 3306. Now we will be switching to the web server for a little bit of configuration. Okay, so now we're in the web server for the database part. So for now we want to see the files for our web application. So we have three files: form.php, index.php, and submit.php. So we'll beam into index.php as our splash page. So this page is simple. We just want to ask the user if they want to add information about a video game. Then we're going to form.php. So this is the page where users will enter the details of their web pages. So it's just a simple input, output. Then we're going to submit.php. So in this part is where we set the server name. So as you can see, this is the IP for the database that we configured, and so this is the username for the user we created in MySQL, so web server, and then this is the password that is the identify by one, and of course the database project name, the NOS project. Okay, so this is where all the transfer of data from this program application to the database. So we'll send the game name, genre, date of release, developer, platform, just like in the database that we created before. Okay, so now we want to see the Cebu status with this command. We want to see the status of the HTTPD _can network connect. Okay, so right now you can see that HTTPD can network connect is off and HTTPD can network connect DB is off. So we want to change it from off to on. So we'll use the set Cebu command. So firstly, for the HTTPD can network connect, we'll set it to 1 to turn it on, and then we'll do so with the DB. Then check the status again. So now both is on. So after this we want to restart everything. So start HTTPD, then we'll restart network, then we'll restart the firewall. Okay, enter the password. Okay, so now we want to see a small example of what our web application will look like. This is still in the web server. So okay, so this is the index.php file. We just want to ask if they want to add anything, add information about video game. So yes, add, and then they'll fill in the game. Let's say for example CS, genre, FPS, and then date of release. We'll just test. So developer, then platform. So now we'll submit. So if this page is output, it means that it has successfully entered the detail and sent it to the MySQL, which we can check by going back to the database. So right now we'll enter MariaDB again. Then we'll select all from the table we created. Okay, as we can see, just like what we entered in the form, we have received it in the database. Okay, so now we'll be moving on from the database to the web server to configure HTTPS. So firstly, we want to install mod SSL. So for this VM, we already installed mod SSL. Then we'll just use this command. So this is a long command, but in general it generates a new RSA private key with a length of 102048 bits, and then creates a self-signed certificate, and then this private key is saved in the private, in this directory /etc/pki/tls private/webserver.key, and then the certificate that you create will be saved in this /etc/pki/tls certs webserver.crt. So this certificate will be valid for 365 days. And so for this VM, we've already created it, so we won't be pressing enter then. And for the next step, we'll edit this file to make sure that all the details in it are correct. So firstly, we want to ensure that the document root is the directory for our PHP files, which is var www/html, so that is correct. And then we want to search for SSL certificate file, and then we want to make sure this command is not commented out, and then it was the same directory as we created our certificate, so that is correct. And then below it, the SSL certificate key file is also the where we place our webserver.key. So with everything all right, we go to the next step, which is starting HTTP. Then we will configure the firewall to open the HTTPS port. So go into firewall-config, then set it to permanent, DMZ. Then we go here, we add port 443 with the same IP address as our web server. Then we press OK. We exit out. Then we'll reload the firewall. Okay, so after that we want to also need to configure this so that it allows for HTTPS. Permanent. So it has allowed both. Okay. So now we'll test in Chrome. So this is open from our host PC. So this is the HTTP version. So now we'll try to test HTTPS. Press advance, then proceed. Okay, so we are now able to access by HTTPS our web server from the ENP0S3 firewall IP. And then we'll try to test. Okay, so this means that it is able to successfully communicate with the database from the host PC. So now we'll check. So we'll go back to Chrome, test out HTTP. So right now we are still able to access it through HTTP. Yep, we are. So we want to turn it off through the firewall. Okay, so now in the firewall we want to go back to firewall-config. So we want to go to DMZ, change it to permanent, go to DMZ, disable HTTP, and also go to port forwarding. We want to get rid of the port 80, just to ensure that it only is able to access the web application through HTTPS. So now we go back to Chrome. We'll test HTTP first. So as you can see, it will not load up. Then we'll test HTTPS. Yes, so HTTP is disabled. HTTP is disabled, and only HTTPS is only allowed to run. So we'll test it one final time. then we'll submit. Then we'll go back to the database. Okay, so we have successfully enabled HTTPS and made sure that it is the only one that is running, not with HTTP. So I think for now that is all for our video tutorial. Thank you.